Hello, Internet. We are back and we have Kevin Johnson with us. We're continuing with the Entrepreneurship series. I'm telling you, this is like basic training. One day you will thank us for this. And when you do, we will expect the contributions to the Free to Battalion Association. Kevin, welcome back, mate. Always glad to see you. Just before we started, I was complaining about the cold here in Switzerland. Apparently it's cold in London as well. So let's get started. Let's get stuck in. I think we're talking about purpose today.
Thanks very much, Koos. Yep, and there's 8 mindsets, and obviously the freedom through purpose is number 3. But let us just recap, because obviously you've been the student in this whole thing, so that we can keep it as practical as possible. So if we recall in the very first video, you got that extended number that you did through that exercise. So purpose is a very important thing, and people overlook it a hell of a lot. And what they've got scientific evidence on is that people that have got a powerful purpose, the odds of succeeding is far greater than just simply saying, I want to succeed. And so, so if we can just recap quickly. You gave yourself that extra lifespan. If I can recall, it was 10 years. Yeah. So just sort of go to the back of your mind quickly and remember how you felt, that year before you were going to die, where you defined what your purpose is going to be, how you were going to feel mentally, physically, what your money situation was going to look like, what your relationships were looking like. And when I say relationships, I'm talking about, future prospects and clients and partners in business and collaborators and staff members, and then obviously relationships outside of your business. So if you can remember, you went through all of that. So that's all important as we move towards purpose. And then we got to the very first mindset, which was, that's where you decided that if you were going to come and play the game in a proper way, that you were going to become the Chief Courageous Officer in your business. What you also promised yourself is that every time, in business, if you are doing something, you were going to write next to your name, Chief Courageous Officer. And then you took that courage and that extended period that you want to live. And then last week we went through the freedom of health. And there we focused on you setting some goals around sleep and the importance of sleep. Someone once said to me that if you want to live long and you want to feel good and you want to be alert at work, then he said to me that you sleep between 2 lights, and you're smart and productive between 2 darks. And it didn't quite sink in straight away, but then I got it. So, that's my motto. Okay, so now we move on to purpose. So rather than just keeping this a theory exercise, same old story, if you can pull out your piece of paper, get it into, at the top, if you can put your name, and next to your name, Chief Courageous Officer, and just below it, freedom through purpose. And then divide the sheet up into the normal 4 blocks. Okay, so I had a look at the Oxford Dictionary just before we got going, and the definition of purpose is the feeling of being determined to do or achieve something. Okay, so without further ado, what I want you to do is in the top right corner, same story again, 1, and then next to it, you put there purpose. That's top right, purpose.
Right, I've done that.
Okay, so now the first question I want you to just to spend, 2 or 3 minutes on is, what is your big purpose? Now, before you answer the question, some people talk about a massive transformative purpose. Okay. Some people talk, I like to talk about having a bold purpose. But the question really is around, what is your big purpose? Okay, so you just maybe spend a couple of minutes on that.
Is it possible, Kevin, to have more than one big purpose?
Yes, yeah,
Or should
absolutely.
we say which is the biggest of the big?
Yeah, I think today just try and focus on, just spend 3 or 4 minutes on it, because clearly this is an exercise that you've got to go and do where you really spend quality time, so that when you come out of the starting blocks, you're giving yourself a fair shot at it. Like in my case, our clients are coaches and consultants. So, we develop software for them so that they can go out there and be much more effective in their marketing, in attracting in the right type of clients into their coaching business. So my transformative purpose is, I didn't go into that space just to generate revenue. I went in there saying to myself that whatever I come up with eventually is got to be better than what came before in that space. And I'll know that because my clients will tell me. So, that's what really gets me waking up in the morning and thinking, right, how do I really crack the code here? It's bigger than just saying, I want to chase 100,000, then I want to chase 1 million. The 100,000 and 1 million will actually come. Okay, it's what is the big, bold purpose that makes me function? So that's really, what the purpose is all about. Then we go to number 2. And there, you can put the 2 words, fascinated and motivated. And in brackets, because a lot of people call it passion. So it's one thing to have a purpose. Now what you've got to ask yourself is, and my question that I always ask myself, you can obviously come up with your own question. Okay, what's the one single focus activity that could fascinate and motivate me for the rest of my life? And the space I'm in right now, which is continuously improving the software of ours, that's what fascinates and motivates me. There's nothing else at the moment in the business world that comes into my life that excites me more of that. And obviously, as time goes by, of course, it evolves. But right now, that's what fascinates and motivates me. So maybe spend a couple of minutes on asking yourself.
Yes, it might not look like I'm thinking, but I'm really thinking hard now. That's a hard question.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking.
Okay, fantastic. Then we move to the bottom left box, and that's number 3. And there we put in long-term vision. Okay, now in my case, I have a 25-year vision. And there's a reason why I have a 25-year vision. Okay, it enables me to go bold in my thinking. And as you'll see, when we get to the fourth box, I have short-term goals. So for me, it's a 25-year vision that enables me to go bold. Okay. Emotionally, it makes me feel very comfortable about the fact that I can achieve my big goal. And so what I'd like you to do there is to come up with a long-term, what resonates with you? 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? Because it's the long-term goal. And then once you've done that, ask yourself, okay, so what does that start to look like? What does that long-term goal start to look like in your mind?
It's actually looking exciting.
Good.
It looks good. And I think it's achievable. It's not pie in the sky. This can be done.
Yes. Now, in my case, with my long-term goal, I'm wanting to get 100,000 coaches worldwide paying a monthly subscription for the use of our software. So that's my long-term goal, 25 years. Now, I know. Go on.
Would that include also keeping them as clients?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, look at this. There's obviously clear KPIs there because, it's no use just being on a treadmill looking for new. So, you'll see when we get to the money that the strategies will start appearing and tactics that I actually use to get there. Okay, then we get to number 4, which is the 90-day goal. Okay, so one of the things I discovered is that once I had decided that I got this 25-year vision and goal, I went, that's interesting. The minute you're thinking 25 years, Kevin, that means there's 100 quarters. So one quarter is just 1%. So if I have a great quarter, it's just 1%. If I have a crap quarter, it's just 1%. So when it comes to the actual goal settings of what we got to achieve to actually get to the 25-year vision, that's what that number 4 box is all about. So every quarter, we're going to be doing it with our audience as well in early January, where we're going to be setting the quarterly goals. Right, so what you could perhaps do now is just to write down 3 to 4 90-day goals that you should be considering to get the momentum.
Okay, we have 3 goals there which we can test.
Are these pertaining to YouTube?
Yes, it's pertaining to this very same channel.
I'm glad
Of
for
course, there
that.
will be another one soon. So
Yeah.
we're using this channel as a monkey. What do you call it? Guinea pig.
Well, what you can now be doing is, you can be taking under the short-term goals of 90 days, you could be taking them, and between now and the end of the year, and then when you get to early January, then we're going to go through a proper exercise of setting the goals for that particular quarter. So what I want you to do, so that you can get used to it, so come like January, we're into it, grab one of those short-term goals, okay, and put a due date on it. Okay, so what I want you to do is to get used to, you've done this before, of course, but I want you to get used to it again, is to take the 8th mindset, which is grow, G-R-O-W, and we're going to put that goal you've just picked through that same filter again. So you know what the goal is. What do you want? Is the first question under G. And why do you want it? Okay?
Okay, we've done that.
Right, then we move on to the result. And because you've got a due date, put some form of milestone, preferably a number or a percentage, in the result section. That's the R in grow.
Okay.
And then when it comes to obstacles, have what I call a good obstacle and a bad obstacle. The good obstacle is...
Yeah, we got the bad one.
Got the bad one. And the good obstacle, now I'm going to explain the difference between the two and recap.
Okay.
Okay, bad obstacles are really where you just don't take action. And good obstacles are where you do take action. Because what you're recognizing now as the Chief Courageous Officer, that the only thing that's holding you back from achieving the result are the obstacles. And you've made up your mind over the last couple of sessions that you won't see obstacles as negatives, but instead you see it as clearly indicating to you what it is that you need to do to achieve the result. So if you're clearer with the results, when you go through this GROW, the clearer your obstacles will be. Okay, so then we go to the last one, which is the W, which is not how are you going to do it, but instead who's going to be helping you. So it's who, not how actions. Okay, so we hardwired to be asking ourselves how. So as long as you do it enough times, you'll start getting used to saying who. And so what I suggest you do, okay, from here onwards, is that when you come up with the goal, the result, and the obstacles, immediately say to yourself, who? Now, obviously, in certain cases, you would have to do it, but get the brain used to asking who, okay? Because once you start surrounding yourself with who people, you'll find you will become a lot more confident in setting bigger goals, bigger results. which would mean bigger obstacles. But you'll be all relaxed with that course because you'll be knowing in the fourth part of grow, you'll start asking yourself who. And I can't answer you on why this happened, but the minute you're strong with your why part in your goals, and as soon as you get used to asking who, I think I mentioned this in my previous video, you start having people knocking on your door who you don't know and start asking, hey, Kev, can I start collaborating with you? And I asked someone, why is it that you've actually phoned me quite a few times? And he said to me, what I was attracted by was the why part in your goals. Not what I wanted, but why I wanted it. He was attracted to the why part because he said, I've got a team that I can assemble that can help you with your whys. No, well, if someone's going to be able to help me with my whys, well, then I'm off to the races because now I can get bigger with my goals. I can get more ambitious with my why in my goals because I know that I've got someone that's going to help me with the obstacles and he's going to actually execute it. And in many cases, what actually happens is that if you're dealing with great who's that are helping you with your hows, then you find people going, no, Kev, don't worry about this. I've got the ideal person that'll sort it out. And there you're sitting on something that you think is going to take 72 hours, and that person's got someone, and they can actually execute the task much better and more effectively, and they can do it in 5 hours. And the reason being, okay, I've always said it, and I include myself, the best people don't work for you. There's always better people out there. And that's not to sound now negative about yourself or the people that you work for. My people don't object at all to that comment. Because what they do is they stick to what they're good at and they who the rest. So there we go. On the freedom of purpose, I don't like referencing other people, but because our audience at this stage is pretty much South African because of, it being a South African history war channel, I want to mention some person. And through my studying at Singularity University, which is an entrepreneurial university, okay, where all our lecturers are entrepreneurial. You just pay your money every year. You get no degrees, no certificates and that. And basically you get lectured by the best of the best in the world. And the co-founder of Singularity, Peter Diamandis, I mean, he's a serial entrepreneur and he's actually personal friends with a South African. Yep, the South African's name is Elon Musk. This guy now is one of the wealthiest guys in the world. And boy, oh boy, he's got big ones between the ears. You know that when he sold PayPal and that, and he went into Tesla, he was running Tesla and, was it Solar City? He had put his two cousins into business there. And he had basically taken his last 150 million and plowed it into those businesses. And when the 2008 financial crisis came, he was running out of money. And obviously the banks were going through crisis, so there wasn't readily capital available on that. And he was actually borrowing rent money. Today he's one of the wealthiest guys in the world. But anyhow, what Peter Diamandis consistently shares with me or with the students is that when he touches on purpose with Elon, and he's touched on this with Elon quite a few times, he has shared with us what Elon always has to say. So I'm going to actually now share it with you. Okay. With Elon, his view is that you've got to have passion, but not just ordinary passion. You've got to have deep-rooted passion. That's what floats his boat. Number two, he doesn't go for just any purpose. He's got a massive transformative purpose. So in other words, whatever he invests into, okay, what he's trying to do is he's trying to come up with something that's absolutely new and in many cases disrupting the old. So if you look at that analog type of spaceship that goes to space, he's come along with SpaceX and it puts it up there. I mean, it's much lighter, it moves faster, it's easier, it's cheaper, it's better, and he can even land them. And when the Russians came over to the States to see one of his ships taking off, one of the well-known Russians said to him, this is a compliment. He said, when I look at what NASA was using and what we as the Russian use, he said, and we look at your spaceship is like a mobile phone. In other words, not analog, very much digital. And so he believes you've got to have a deep-rooted passion to achieve that. You've got to have a massive transformative purpose to achieve that. Okay, and then he says you've got to have singular, unwavering focus. Singular, unwavering focus. And I mean, if you had to look compared to the military, and you had to look at a guy like France, and you see what they got up with in the reconnaissance command. I mean, that's really the traits that France showed: singular, unwavering focus. The brain just gets so much more sharper when it's focused, especially in that singular way. Okay, then number 4 is first principle thinking. First principle thinking is the opposite to reasoning by analogy. So when he comes up with a massive transformative purpose, he knows that what he's chasing, he can't get his directors in and start reasoning by analogy. So if you look at Tesla, okay, he knew he had to come up with something that didn't exist. So therefore, it's going to be a waste of time him employing people from Ford and BMW and that in the beginning, because what would have then happened is that they would have reasoned by analogy. So if you look at the two, the one is first principle and the one is reasoning by analogy. Now, reasoning by analogy is where you get a bunch of guys together or women together and you just improve what is currently out there. That's reasoning by analogy. Now, obviously, you've got to use that in your business, but that uses less energy because it's a lot easier to get wins. You're just improving what's already out there. But first principle, okay, is when you are seeking to establish something that never existed before. And that eats into a lot of people's energy. And that's the difference between the two. Now, he plays big time on first principle thinking. And then lastly, no settling for no and never giving up. Now, when I say never giving up, that doesn't mean to say they stupidly plod along. But when it's first principle thinking, you cannot settle for no, because that is part of the formula. You're going to have lots of no's coming your way. And lastly, never giving up. So that's really some of the ingredients that he uses when he moves with his massive transformative purpose. I mean, this guy is just an absolute phenomenal man.
But nothing would have happened without a purpose, Kenneth. He would have taken his money and retired to the Caribbean or something.
Correct. Correct.
So if you don't know your purpose, you cannot actually do any of these things.
No, you'll be meandering along, and maybe you'll hit some luck, but if you don't have that passion and that purpose, you know, as a successful entrepreneurial person where you're 100% in, you're not faking it, you know, you can't just drive it. I want to make money. I want to make lots of money, because you're going to hit so many hurdles on your way. But if it's just about money, you're just going to give up. So, I mean, I can see it myself. You know, I'm 64 years of age, and this that I'm busy in at the moment, I started to conceptualize it when I turned 60 and said, right, I'm going to set myself at 25 year at 60, is that, you know, just keep chiseling away to make sure that, you know, the software that we've got is not better than what came before. It just didn't exist before. And that's what floats my boat. I mean, we hit lots of obstacles regularly. And, you know, the older you get sometimes too, you know, you sort of, the first couple of hurdles, you start thinking, maybe I should just consolidate my monies now, and maybe it's time to retire. But, you know, that never comes into me because of that bold purpose. And then followed by, am I fascinated and motivated? So there we go. Any questions?
No, not really, no. I'm actually quite satisfied with this. For me, it makes a lot of sense. If you don't have purpose, you will never be able to follow through.
Exactly.
And you need to know what it is. Why do you want it? That is your purpose. The why is actually important.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, also, I heard someone once say to me many years ago, if you don't have, you know, purpose and passion behind the purpose, you know, then what's actually happening is you're always looking out there to be someone else. And if you think of it, everyone else out there is already taken for. Whereas if you got your own purpose and your own passion, then you know what your mission is in life. And when I shared that with someone else, that person then replied and said, yep, one of the problems that we've got today, because we're 24/7 connected, is that there's just too many people comparing their inside with someone else's outside. And let's face it, someone else's outside, the appearance always looks like the person's in control, in top of the world and that. And the problem with you, you're feeling crap because you're comparing your inside with their outside. If you got your massive transformative purpose, you got the passion behind it, you got the long-term vision in place, you know what your short-term goals are, okay, you start to protect yourself from all those, as France would say, you know, you don't have those amygdalas firing in the mind, what they call the anxiety box, the stress box, the fight and flee box, whatever you want to call it. That takes time, this. So I'm going to give a little bit of tips on what I do there, is that normally when I'm working on something like this, that's important, I would actually give it a full go after I've had a rest day or two, where I'm relaxed, refreshed, re-energized, and then give a stab at it. And bear in mind that for me, every quarter I revisit this freedom. So I just keep fine-tuning it all the time, just fine-tuning. So you don't have to be too concerned about getting it right first time round.
It's always fascinating to me that people think it will just fall in their laps. Man, unless you marry rich, it's not going to fall in your lap, and you're not even going to marry rich until you started dating. So I don't quite understand why people think there's no skills to learn. I mean, there's a lot of skills to learn if you want to achieve whatever you want to achieve, whatever your purpose is.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So if there's no other questions, what I'd like to do is end off with the 3 words again, which is clarity. If you could write that down: clarity, confidence, and new capability. And then just tick each of them with either a yes or a no. When you ask yourself in this short session, did you get clarity on your purpose? Did you get more confidence? And did you get some new capability out of it? Finish their quiz?
Yes, I would say yes on all 3, actually.
Fantastic. So, once again, to the listeners out there, if you found that you got some value today, we're not asking for any monies out of these sessions, but we'd really appreciate it if you've got something that you could pass on some donation to our Veterans Association at 32 Battalion. And obviously all the details will be in the description box, and it would be really appreciated. We have got people out there of ours that are going through some very challenging times. Now, next week, we're going to be focusing on freedom through time. And that will be followed the following week by freedom through money. The 2 work very much hand in hand. Not that the others are isolated from them, but they work very much in hand. Because if you're an entrepreneurial person, you've got 2 things. You can either throw money at it, getting people to do it for you, so on and so forth, or you can utilize your time. So it's money or time. 2 very important ones. But next week, we'll concentrate on the freedom through time.
I think it's also important, it just struck me, I don't think if we said this in the beginning, but people should keep their notes when they work through this series, not throw it away perhaps.
Well, we got 2 yells for those in the army. There's a yell there in Oudtshoorn that used to get yacht up if you didn't keep your notes. And then in the police, I think it's Boolia. So for the policemen listening, you get yacht up that mountain. So yep, goes without saying, you must keep your notes.
I just want to say I did keep my notes. I can actually prove it by having here with me.
There we go.
And luckily for me, I have such a bad handwriting, no one else can read it. So they are quite safe.
Yep. For health and safety reasons, we obviously won't talk about a 2,4.
In all seriousness, I have to wonder how long it will take me to even walk a 2.4 on a flat area. Let's not say like this mountainous country I am in right now.
Well, I've got some friends that weren't in good condition. And then they just said to me one day, okay, how do you manage to do it? I said, well, look here, I have my annual health check every year. I've got a certain quality of life. I've been doing it for many, many, many years, probably decades. So just don't jump into it. Go and see your doctor, spend some money, get a proper health check, because, you don't want to go now and bloody have a heart attack. But having said all of that, once they've had their tests and that, the ones that have been motivated, they've all said, Jesus, I can't believe how quickly I was able to transform myself. It's amazing. It's just amazing how you can improve. For those who are not exercising properly, it's just amazing because, you start to think about the sleep, you start to think about the food, you start to think about, the exercising. It's just incredible how you can claw back so much. I mean, I've got a mate, what's his name? Julius. He's probably listening to this too. He was at 3-2 Battalion. He's got a very big business there in Johannesburg. And I just thought to myself, I'm going to come out of the exercising, come outside the box a little bit. So what it is, I got to hold him. I said, right, okay, what you're going to do is we're going to do freestanding squats, just 30. 30 press-ups, no matter how long it actually takes you, and a 2,4. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to do it for one day. 4 hours, we're going to do it. Then rest 4 hours, 4 hours, rest 4, rest 4. And we did it for a day. And I said, no, I'm not saying this to sound macho. It just felt good mentally. And there he was in Johannesburg texting me, I'm now out on the road. Obviously, in his case, he's got a big, what do they call it? Big storage depot. So obviously, 2 o'clock in the morning, it's a bit dangerous running around in Joburg. So he's running around in his big storage depot. And obviously, I'm in London, I can go outside. And but I wouldn't advise people to go and do that unless, you are exercising regularly. But it's good to go outside the box. It does something to you.
Well, there is something what they say about a healthy mind and a healthy body, and that it actually goes together. And if you think back, when were you probably the sharpest you ever were? It's probably during your service years when you were fit and you had no belly to carry around. And you had confidence. I mean, I've seen so many pictures of people, they send it to me, of themselves in uniform. And man, I've not seen a single fat one. They look good.
Well, I would say to you that, physically, I'm probably physically what I was when I was about 40. Mentally, I would say I'm more sharper now than what I was ever. Now, I'm not talking about, for example, going and grabbing something and learning something. I'm talking about mentally sharper because I've got much more effective tools now to use to be effective, if that makes sense.
Well, and you're wiser. I mean, you've been through the school of life as well, and that counts.
Yes. And I can assure you now, if you have a transformative purpose, you're fascinated and motivated behind it, you're looking after yourself mentally and physically. I mean, I don't see the creativity and that type of stuff dropping. And the problem we got, as you get older, it means you've been doing the wrong things for a long time. If you've been doing something that's wrong for a short time, you can always get out of that habit. But if you've been doing the wrong things for a long time, well, then those habits, you're sort of disciplined now to those habits.
I'm learning. And I thank you for that. I mean, it's just that I have clarity. I do know what I want. And I have objectives. And even if we don't quite reach them or overtake them, that's fine. Then we have another 3 months to try again.
Absolutely. Well, the thing is that the courage, the first one, the health, now number 3, these are all important. But, the rubber starts to hit the road now for you going through these exercises next week. Because now we're going to be looking at, what are all the things you've got to get rid of so that you can take that quality time that you've got every day. I always say it's not about time. It's God gives you so much energy per day. So what are you going to do with that energy so that when we get to the freedom through money, that, you're focusing on the important things. Coming out of your comfort zone.
Otherwise, you're wasting time.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're repeating, and your repeating didn't work before. Now,
Yeah.
why is it going to work now?
Absolutely.
Do you have to change in some way? Is it a massive thing?
Is it a
massive thing? Is it a massive change, or is it a lifestyle change, or is it not as dramatic as that?
No, I would say basically it's having that big vision and then knowing you're going to be looking at 90-day improvements. Now, many people always hang themselves out to dry because they get confused. So they have a vision, but they're always measuring their progress against the vision. So that always feels like you're losing because the vision always moves. So therefore, you're never going to get to where you are. So what I always say to people is in the third box, you have the long-term vision, like in my case, 25 years. That's there to give you direction. That's there to give you motivation. But when it comes to the 90-day box, I always measure my progress. Where was I at the beginning of that quarter? And where am I at the end of the quarter? So I measure the progress. And I don't measure it against the vision. Because our goal at the moment is 100,000. That's a long way away. So I'm always going to feel like I'm a loser. Whereas if I get to that goal I've set for the 90 days, I measure my progress, go, I've actually done better than what I thought. And if it's a good one, well, that's just 1%. If it's a bad one, well, it's just 1%. It just does something to the psychology.
Given we've come to the end of this one, I wish to thank you for your time. I'm sure that there's a lot of things we don't know, which we will discover as we go along. But there's no other way to do it but to do it. You have to go through it. So to anybody listening up to this time, just carry on. Carry on with me. I'm with you in this journey. Let's see if we can achieve our dreams and our purpose. That's the one thing I've learned today. You must have a purpose. So thank you to all of you. Until we meet again, God bless.